You're about to lose everything you've worked for, and you won't even see it coming. Okay? Right now, as you watch this, someone is studying you, reading your face, cataloging your weaknesses, and the moment you display one of these 8 emotions, they'll strike. Machiavelli spent his life in the Italian courts watching powerful men fall from grace, not because they lacked intelligence, not because they lacked resources, but because they revealed the wrong emotion at the wrong time. In the next 8 minutes, I'm going to expose the 8 emotional tales that turn you from predator into prey. Okay. Miss even one of these, and you'll hand your enemies a loaded weapon aimed directly at your throat. Number 8 seems harmless, but it's destroyed more careers, more relationships, and more reputations than any other emotion on this list. Let's begin. Watch a child in a candy store. Pure, unfiltered joy radiating from every pore. Beautiful, right? Now, imagine a grown man displaying that same energy in a boardroom negotiation. You just watched him lose $50,000. Machiavelli observed that excessive enthusiasm reveals 3 fatal truths about you. First, you lack experience. Seasoned players have seen it all before. Nothing excites them because nothing surprises them. Second, you're emotionally invested. The moment someone knows you want something, they know exactly how to manipulate you. Third, you've already mentally committed to the outcome, which means you'll make concessions you shouldn't make just to close the deal. Think about the last time you were desperately excited about a job opportunity. You probably talked too much in the interview, probably revealed your desperation, probably accepted a lower salary than you deserved. Your enthusiasm was a neon sign that screamed, "I need this more than you need me." The Prince teaches us that emotions are information. Every time you display enthusiasm, you're handing over classified intelligence about your desires, your weaknesses, and your breaking points. Strategic indifference isn't about being cold. It's about maintaining negotiating power. When someone can't read your level of interest, they can't exploit it. So they're forced to offer more to entice you because they're operating in darkness. Here's what you do instead. Train your face to remain neutral, even when your heart is racing, okay? Practice the phrase "that's interesting. Let me think about it," until it becomes automatic. Create artificial time delays before responding to opportunities. The person who cares less in any interaction holds all the power. Make them believe you have options, whether you do or not. But here's where it gets darker. Once you've mastered hiding your own enthusiasm, you can weaponize the enthusiasm of others. When someone shows you they're desperate for your approval, your business, your affection, you've just been handed the keys to their psychological kingdom. And Machiavelli would tell you to use those keys without hesitation. Now, let's talk about an emotion that's even more dangerous because it masquerades as strength. In reality, it's a confession of weakness that your enemies will feast upon. Anger is the emotion of kings and fools, and Machiavelli watched both types destroy themselves with it. The difference: kings learned to weaponize it. Fools let it weaponize them. When you display genuine anger, you've just revealed your breaking point. You've shown exactly which button to press to make you malfunction. Every manipulator worth their salt is taking notes, cataloging exactly what triggers you, so they can pull that trigger whenever it serves their interest. Think about the last argument you had. It's the moment you raised your voice, the moment your face flushed red, the moment you lost your composure. You lost the argument. It doesn't matter if you were right. It doesn't matter if logic was on your side. The person who loses emotional control loses credibility, loses respect, and loses power. Machiavelli distinguished between hot anger and cold anger. Hot anger is reactive, explosive, uncontrolled. It's the anger that makes you send that text you'll regret, throw that punch that ruins your life, or say those words that end your career. Hot anger is a chemical hijacking of your prefrontal cortex. You become stupid when you become hot, angry. Your IQ drops 40 points, and your enemies become geniuses by comparison. Cold anger, however, is calculated. Okay? It's anger transmuted into strategy. It's the long game. Okay? It's remembering exactly who wronged you and waiting months or years for the perfect moment to balance the scales. Cold anger doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need to. It simply acts when action serves the greater purpose. Dick. Here's the brutal truth that Machiavelli understood. People respect controlled power, not explosive emotion. When you scream, you're weak. When you plot quietly, you're dangerous. It's the most feared people in any organization aren't the ones who throw tantrums. They're the ones who smile pleasantly while systematically dismantling your career behind closed doors. So what do you do when you feel that surge of rage? You pause, you breathe, you transmute that emotional energy into cold calculation. You ask yourself, what does this anger tell me about my vulnerabilities? And then you eliminate those vulnerabilities. You never let the person who triggered you see that they've succeeded. Instead, you file away their tactic for future reference. And here's the manipulation tactic nobody talks about. Once you've mastered your own anger, you can deliberately trigger anger in others. An angry opponent makes mistakes. They become predictable. They abandon strategy for emotional satisfaction. Get someone angry enough and they'll destroy themselves while you watch from a safe distance with clean hands. But there's an emotion even more insidious than anger. Okay? An emotion that people actually admire you for displaying. An emotion that society tells you is noble and good. And it will absolutely gut you if you're not careful. Compassion is beautiful. It's also a liability that Machiavelli would tell you to hide like a loaded gun. Now, before you click away thinking I'm advocating for psychopathy, listen carefully. This isn't about becoming heartless. This is about understanding that displaying compassion indiscriminately is like walking through a war zone wearing a sign that says, hi, whoa, and shoot back. Machiavelli watched compassionate rulers lose their thrones. It's not because compassion is wrong, but because visible compassion attracts predators, like blood attracts sharks. When people know you're merciful, they'll test that mercy. They'll push boundaries. They'll exploit your kindness until there's nothing left of you but regret and resentment. The problem with displaying compassion is that it signals you'll absorb cost that others won't. You'll say yes when you should say no. You'll give second chances to people who use that chance to stab you deeper. You'll sacrifice your interests for others who'd never do the same for you. Every workplace has that person who can't say no. Guess what? They're drowning in everyone else's responsibilities while getting none of the credit. They're the first to arrive, last to leave, and first to be fired when budget cuts come because their compassion made them seem dispensable. Cruel, maybe. True, absolutely. Machiavelli's principle here is simple. Be merciful in private, ruthless in public. Help people when it serves your strategic interests, but never let your compassion become unpredictable. The moment people can count on your kindness, they'll abuse it. Uncertainty keeps them honest. Here's the dark application. When you hide your compassion, when you appear capable of ruthlessness, people work harder to stay in your good graces. They don't take you for granted. They don't assume you'll always be there to catch them when they fall. Paradoxically, this makes your occasional acts of kindness far more powerful and memorable. But you can go further. You can feign compassion strategically while feeling none. This is pure Machiavellian manipulation. You display empathy when it builds loyalty. You show mercy when it creates obligation. And you help others when it puts them in your debt. Every act of kindness becomes an investment that you'll collect on later. The fourth dangerous emotion is one that most people don't even recognize as an emotion. They think it's a personality trait. Machiavelli knew better. Okay. And he watched it destroy more alliances than betrayal ever could. Pride is the silent assassin of careers, relationships, and empires. And the deadliest part, the people who suffer most from pride are always the last ones to recognize they have it. Machiavelli observed that pride manifests in two lethal ways. First, it prevents you from learning. When you're too proud to admit ignorance, you stay ignorant. When you're too proud to ask for help, you fail alone. When you're too proud to acknowledge mistakes, you repeat them until they destroy you. Second, pride makes you predictable. A proud person will always choose reputation over results. They'll reject good advice if it comes from someone they consider beneath them. They'll escalate conflicts they should abandon just to avoid the appearance of backing down. They'll sacrifice strategic advantages to maintain the illusion of dominance. Your enemies know this. They know that if they challenge your pride, you'll react emotionally instead of strategically. They know you'll take the bait every single time because your ego won't and allow you to ignore a slight. They'll get you to destroy yourself while they sit back and watch. Think about every public figure who's fallen from grace. How many of them could have survived if they'd simply admitted fault early, apologized, and moved on? But pride wouldn't let them. Pride demanded they fight, deny, and double down until the evidence became overwhelming and the damage became irreparable. Machiavelli's solution is brutal. Kill your pride before it kills you. Develop the ability to swallow your ego like medicine. Practice saying, "I was wrong," until it stops choking you. Learn to lose small battles to win larger wars. Understand that reputation is built through results, not through never backing down. Here's the manipulation aspect. Once you've conquered your own pride, other people's pride becomes a tool you can use against them. Want someone to reject a good deal? Frame it as beneath them. Want someone to make a catastrophic decision? Okay? Challenge their competence publicly. Want someone to alienate their allies? Okay? Feed their ego until they become insufferable. The fifth emotion is particularly dangerous in our modern world. Social media has turned this emotion into a performance art, and millions of people are destroying their leverage every single day without realizing it. Desperation is the scent that predators smell from miles away. And in today's hyperconnected world, you're broadcasting your desperation to everyone, all the time, through mechanisms you don't even recognize. When you post about how badly you want something, you're desperate. When you respond to messages immediately, every single time, you're desperate. When you over-explain yourself, you're desperate, okay? When you seek validation through likes and comments, you're desperate, and everyone can see it. Machiavelli understood that desperation inverts every power dynamic. The desperate person always pays more, works harder, and accepts less. Desperate job seekers accept exploitative conditions. Desperate entrepreneurs take terrible deals. Desperate lovers tolerate abusive relationships. Desperation is the tax you pay for letting people see you need them more than they need you. Here's what makes desperation particularly insidious in the modern era. It's contagious and cumulative. Every desperate action you take reinforces the perception of desperation, which causes people to value you less, which makes you more desperate, which causes more desperate actions. It's a death spiral. Think about dating in the age of dating apps. The moment you start triple texting, the moment you're always available, the moment you tolerate disrespect just to keep someone's attention, you've entered the desperation spiral. And the brutal truth is that desperation repels the very thing you're desperate for. The Machiavellian solution is artificial abundance. Even when you're desperate, especially when you're desperate, you must create the appearance of options. You must be willing to walk away, or at least appear willing. You must introduce scarcity into your availability. The harder you are to pin down, the more people will chase you. Here's the dark tactic. You can deliberately create desperation in others while hiding your own. Make people wait for your responses. Be vague about your availability. Create competition for your time and attention. Once someone becomes desperate for what you offer, you can extract almost any concession you want. But there's an emotion that's even more dangerous than desperation because it disguises itself as confidence. Machiavelli watched this emotion destroy men who should have been untouchable. Certainty is the emotion of the soon-to-be defeated. When you're certain, you stop gathering intelligence, you stop adapting, you stop preparing for contingencies. and reality has a way of destroying certainty with extreme prejudice. Machiavelli's Italy was a chessboard where certainty meant death. Machiavelli, the prince who was certain of his allies' loyalty, woke up to find those allies had switched sides. The general who was certain of victory marched into an ambush. The merchant who was certain of his investments watched them evaporate overnight. The problem with displaying certainty is twofold. First, it telegraphs that you've stopped being vigilant. You've mentally committed to an outcome, which means you're no longer watching for threats or opportunities that contradict your narrative. Second, it creates vulnerability through rigidity. When circumstances change, and they always change eventually, the certain person is the slowest to adapt. Your competitors love it when you're certain. It means you've become predictable. It means you've stopped innovating. It means you're defending a position instead of seeking new advantages. Certainty is the first step toward irrelevance. But here's the deeper manipulation that Machiavelli understood. You can project certainty to inspire others while privately maintaining complete flexibility. Public certainty builds morale and attracts followers. Private doubt keeps you sharp and adaptive. K is never confusing your public performance with your private reality. Leaders who display doubt lose followers, or leaders who believe their own propaganda lose wars. The Machiavellian plays the role of certainty while constantly stress-testing assumptions, maintaining backup plans, and staying ready to pivot the moment circumstances change. Here's how you weaponize others' certainty. When someone is absolutely convinced they're right, they've stopped defending against alternative scenarios. That's when you strike from an angle they've dismissed as impossible. Their certainty becomes their blind spot, and blind spots are where you place the knife. The seventh emotion is one that people display constantly, especially in professional settings, thinking it makes them appear conscientious. Machiavelli would tell you it makes you appear weak. Anxieties, weakness made visible. And the moment people see you're anxious, they know they can push you. When you anxiously seek approval, you signal that others' opinions control you. When you anxiously double-check everything, you signal you don't trust your own judgment. When you anxiously apologize before you've done anything wrong, you signal you're preemptively accepting blame for future failures. Machiavelli observed that anxious people make terrible decisions because they're re-optimizing for emotional relief rather than strategic advantage.